Welcome back. This is the third lesson recording for IM2, November 12th, 2020. All right, so we are up to card number 11 now. So this one, it says, how wide is the gap between the cliffs? So you have a clinometer or clinometer, and you're trying to figure out how far it is. So your measuring tape is in blue and your clinometer is in red. So your measuring tape can be used anywhere you want on your side of the cliff within reachable distance. So this can measure anything, okay? It can go up or it can go to the side, it can measure anything. Your character can move anywhere on your side of the cliff. So this person can move up or down, okay? So probably the easiest is if he was standing right at the edge, like so. And then I can change my angulation, okay, so that it is reaching right to the edge of the cliff. Maybe I'll move him a little closer to the edge. Okay, so maybe that is flush with the edge of the cliff. Okay, and then I know that that will reach the edge of the other side. Now I can measure where he's standing. I can measure this height, and I want this to be perpendicular, so I might need to move that a little bit like so. Okay, and the distance is 1.4 meters, and I'm trying to figure out what the gap is. Okay, so and I am going to answer on the next slide. So let's see if this will translate to the other side. Okay, all right, so good. So we know that this is 1.4 meters and it's 19 degrees. So let's work over here. So I know that this is 1.4 meters. This is 1.4 meters. That's the height to the eye level. That's from the ground to the eye level. And that's 29 degrees. Actually, it was 19 degrees. Okay, so now we know the height. The ground to the eye level is 1.4 meters. That means this height is 1.4 meters as well. And we're looking for, I'm going to call this X because that is the distance from the edge to the cliff. Okay, so then that means we're dealing with, this is the opposite side and this is the adjacent side. So we're dealing with tangent of 19 degrees is going to be opposite, which is 1.4 divided by X. So I don't know if you're starting to notice that when you see the denominator, X as the denominator, you can swap these two. Okay, so that's what we've done. We've been multiplying both sides by X and then dividing both sides by tangent of 19. So that means we can just swap these two. That becomes X is equal to 1.4 divided by tangent of 19 degrees. If you do not understand how we got there, do not use this method, okay? Because it's more important that you understand than just doing it blindly, okay? So if you do not understand how we got there, do not use it. Tangent 1.4 divided by tangent of 19 degrees is 0.3443. Okay, so then use the calculator. 1.4 divided by 0.343. I'm sorry. Okay, 1.4 divided by 0.3443 is going to be 4.0. So X is equal to 4.0607 degrees, or to the nearest meters, it will be 4 meters. But let me just write down 4.1 meters. Okay, so 4.1 4.1 meters. Okay, now I can check my answer, and 4.1 meters looks about right to me. Okay, great. Then let's move on. This is where sketch any triangle you use. Make sure to label any right angles and write down the brief explanation of how you find your answer. I am going to skip this because I have explained it all. All right, then this time we are looking for how wide is the river. No calculators allowed and no trig tables are allowed. Okay, so enter your answer in the next slide. So in this case, try this question without the help of a calculator, including the Desmos calculator or the trig table. For this challenge, imagine you are stuck on the left side of the river and you want to know how wide it is. You have an angle measure device which can only measure 45 degrees angles. So this can only measure 45 degrees. Do something creative to find the width of this river. Note point A is directly across the river from point B. So A and B are directly across. And we have a measuring device that can only measure 45 degrees. What could I do? Well, I can move this around. Okay, so if I put this at an edge like that, and it's measuring 45 degrees. Okay, that does not look like 45 degrees to me. Then I can measure this side to this side. Okay, so I know that this is 35.3 degrees. Okay, so actually it's 36 meters. Okay, so the distance from A to the measuring device is 36 meters. That means I know that this triangle length is 36 meters, and this is a 45 degree triangle. Okay, I stop because it does not look like 45 degree triangle, because this does not look like 45 degrees, but let's just assume that it is. If it's a 45, knowing this is isosceles triangle, that means this side length has to be the same as this side length, even though it does not look like it. Next slide, it actually looks like it. Okay, so this tells me if this is 36 meters, then I know that this is also the how wide the river is 36 meters. So let's go to that, and I am going to enter 36 here. 36, and then I will check my answer, and that looks good to me. So 36 meters is the width of the river. All right, then, okay, sketch your triangle you use. So this looks like a much better triangle because it does look like a 45 degree. Okay, so this here I am going to use yellow. Okay, so what I did was I drew, this was 45 degrees, and then I drew a line directly across, and then I drew a line from here to there. Okay, so that was my triangle, and I know that this was 45 degrees, and this was 45 degrees too. Okay, 45 degrees. Okay, it's not showing up. Then write down the brief explanation. You could do that. Okay, so getting back to our slides now. So we've been talking about the trig ratios, and how do I memorize this? How do I remember that sine of theta is always going to be opposite leg of a hypotenuse, and cosine of theta is adjacent of a hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite leg divided by adjacent leg? Well, you remember SOHCAHTOA. Okay, SOHCAHTOA. And where do you get the SOHCAHTOA from? So comes from sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and ka comes from cosine, that's the first letter, is cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and then finally TOA is tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so that just as a abbreviation or mnemonic, you just remember SOHCAHTOA, and you say it enough times and you can remember that. My husband, who has not done trigonometry for a very long time, he learned it in high school and he still remembers it. And he has not used this for a long time. But nonetheless, it's one of those things that stays with you. And there is a funny song that I did play during the class, and the link is in the canvas as well. And I do hope that you will watch it. In fact, there is yet another song there that might help you as well. So there are two fun songs that you can watch that's going to help you memorize SOHCAHTOA. Okay. All right. So then let's move on to finding angles number 1. Okay. So far we were given angle and one of the side length. So what if this time we are given 2 of the side length, but we're trying to figure out the angle? Okay, so can we do that? Well, we know the opposite leg is 25 units and the hypotenuse is 47 units. So we need to use the sine ratio, and then sine of whatever the angle, we do not know what it is going to be opposite, which is 25, over hypotenuse, which is 47. So, and when I do that, I get about 0.53 as my ratio. Then what I can do is I need to do inverse lookup to find the angle. So I can look up the trig table that you have that looks like this. And if I look up more closely, for sine, that's the first column, sine of 0.53, 0.53, 0.5299 is very close to 0.53, and that is for the angle of 32 degrees. So I know that the angle had to be 32 degrees, okay? But you're also going to know how to use your calculator so that you do not need to rely on the trig table. But for now, let's just focus on the trig table that you do have, okay? All right, so then finding angles number 2. Let's try this one. Given 2 side measures and you want to find the angle measure. We're trying to find the angle, this angle. Okay, so the opposite leg to the reference angle or the unknown angle is 28 because it's across from that angle. And then adjacent leg is 19. So what is the trig ratio that deals with opposite and adjacent? That's tangent. Okay, so tangent of with question mark angle measure is going to be equal to opposite over at hypotenuse. That's going to be 28 over 19. And if I use the calculator, I get approximately 1.47. And again, do a reverse lookup to find the angle. So if I was to look up the trig table, the tangent is the last column. Okay, so I'm looking for 1.47 near there. Well, it's 1.42 is 55 degrees. 1.48 is 56 degrees. So I know that it's somewhere between 55 and 56. It's pretty close to 56. So for now, I am going to just say it's 56 degrees. Okay. All right, so at this point, I want you to pause the video and see if you can use the same thing to figure out how to do card number 17 to 20. Okay, so this is card number 17. So Moran wrote down the following equation. Sign of the question mark is 32 over 48, which is approximately 0.67. So what did she do? She knew that 32 was the opposite side and 48 was the hypotenuse. So she picked the sign of the question mark angle measure is equal to 32, which is opposite, divided by 48, which using the calculator, you got 0.67. And then you can use the trig ratio table. So if I click on that, I am going to get you to this. 0.67 as a sign is going to be close to 42. So I am going to enter 42 as my answer here.